Welcome back to the NWA Connie Corso show where we talk all things dogs. Everybody, I don't know who the hell this is. That's an inside thing. This guy here is very important. He's a bunch of our friends in real life. He's a good brother. He's a family man, great family man, a man that believes in manhood, a blue-collar guy, an advisor. Many of us know him behind the scenes, Brother Anthony Tosco. What's up, brother?
Hey, Joe. How you doing? Thank you for having me. Yes, it is a big honor and a pleasure to be on your show. I love your show. I love everything that you stand for. And, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Man, we're glad to have you, man. Let's give your own introduction of who you are, what you do.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Anthony Tosco. I'm an American. I was born here. But to give you a quick history on myself, both of my parents are off the boat. They're both Sicilian. I love animals, especially dogs, especially working dogs. So, my parents, they came here in the 70s. But my upbringing, my culture was very different than I would say, let's say most Americans, So I grew up with that 70-year-old culture. So by the time I was 9 years old, like my dad was the head, I was the tail. So a lot of times, when you listen to like people talk about epigenetics is very real. Why do I say that? Because I've lived it. I'm the oldest in my family. I am very different than my siblings. Just my mindset, my genome, and a lot of that had to do with my upbringing. Now, my passion for animals actually came from my father's side. So when my father grew up, my father was a very poor farmer in Sicily. So by the age of 3 or 4 years old, they're already picking up olives because that's how they made their money. He's one of 6, right? But so when I started at 9, that's all I knew was work. So for me, there wasn't any extracurricular activities. There wasn't any sports. There wasn't anything like that. It was just work. Now, I'm a tradesman by trade. I'm a master plumber, HVAC specialist, and hydronic specialist. But I got into the field at 18. I didn't want to do the restaurant. I met my wife very young. We're high school sweethearts. Her father was in the marble and granite business. So they fabricate like countertops and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep. Very familiar with that. He's an amazing tile setter, a true artisan. They're Argentinian. So their side, they speak Spanish, English, and Italian. I learned my Spanish just from working with Mexicans, Guatemalans, Hondurans from a little boy. So I speak pretty fluent Spanish. I don't know all the vocabulary, but right. I do pretty well. But the point is that epigenetics is a real thing. It does change you. So because he was a poor farmer, half of his house was actually dedicated to livestock. So like my grandfather was a human tiller. That's how they made money. So his older brothers, they literally tilled land. At the end of the workday, they came home. They always bought land and they tilled their own land. So that's where my passion comes. It doesn't come from my mother's side. They kind of grew up a little bit more like a silver spoon. My grandfather was very successful. They owned a quarry over in Sicily. But my father's side, they were very poor. But like that successful, like savage mindset, I have. I just express it different, and the other thing is, as I got into the trade and I left the family business, I was really on my own.
Right.
I never looked for handouts. I didn't look for my dad. So I think what really changed me, and a lot of times I choose to be very kind, very respectful. I like to help a lending hand because in an Italian culture, your family is your best friend.
Right.
So I bought my first property at 17. And you'll see where I'm going with this. There's a point to it, right? So I bought my first property at 17. My wife and I were together since we were 18. But my older cousins, long story short, they took advantage. So as soon as I got married, my wife and I lost everything. So everything that she worked for as a little girl, everything that I saved up as a little boy, we lost financially. So we lost over $250,000. I ended up getting vertigo. So vertigo is, when you're unbalanced, dizziness.
Right.
I had that for about 15 years. So
wow.
I just woke up one night. I fell asleep at her house. We were engaged. And I woke up and they had to carry me out of the house. I spent 4 days in the hospital, very lethargic. They wanted to do spinal taps and stuff like that. So I just got into the trade, I'm ready to get married. So we lost everything financially. I had vertigo. as soon as I got out of hospital, I went back to work. So I remember clear as day, like I'd be running like roof vents, and the houses I worked in were multi-million dollar homes. They had elevator shafts.
Right.
So when you're looking down to the basement, you're like, you got a good 40, 45 feet, drop. So I remember running the vents. I'd probably, for a couple of years, I'd puke every day. No lie, just because my body was getting acclimated to it.
Mm-hmm.
That stopped. That subsided. But then I ended up hurting my back because I used to deadlift. I couldn't bench anymore. I was a gym rat. Mm-hmm. So I trained and lift, and I did a lot of jiu-jitsu and Krav Maga and stuff like that. But I couldn't bench anymore, so then I started deadlifting. So I found myself for like these 7-8 years that I lost everything financially. I had vertigo every day. I mean, just the fact of like hitting a speed bump, everything moves.
Right.
And then I hurt my back severely. But I kept working. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love like the American Pit Bull Terrier. It's that mindset of like never, ever, ever give up.
Yeah.
Now, my dad's very successful. They're all very hard workers. That's one thing about my family. They work very hard, and they're all tenacious like that. But I never asked for $1. I didn't ask for a handout. And I'm sure my personality and my character would be very different if I didn't go through all that pain and suffering, and if I didn't find God. I mean, I went to Catholic school for 8 years, but it doesn't always mean that, you walk the walk. And I'm not perfect by no means. I'm the first one in line to sin, but I really try to walk a good, fruitful life. Try to be a good, a good person for my children, a good role model, especially for my son, because today kids are so impressionable. But that's what really gave me like that strong mindset. But I choose to be nice to people. I want to help people.
Right.
And, even going into the trades, because I was an outsider, it was hard. It was hard getting my first master license. I failed my journeyman twice. They put questions in there that they were never in the book. It's like an insider thing. Mm-hmm. But then what happens is like, all right, after the first master license, and I got another one. I got 3 in PA because PA is very political. Then people try to help you. Well, now I don't need your help. I've been suffering for like a decade.
Right.
Now you're coming, you want to help. I don't need your help now.
Right.
But that's why a lot of times, like my kindness, comes off maybe as like fake, but I choose that the way. It's much harder to be kind and help, than the opposite.
Right.
But that's a little bit about me. I got a couple kids, I love dogs. I go to bed thinking about dogs. I wake up thinking about dogs. Yeah. It's just a passion.
So how did your everything, man, you said a mouthful right then. A lot of stuff you said I felt deeply about, like going off, starting your thing, not asking for money. That's one of the things my dad told me when I moved away from my hometown. He said, bro, you did all this, you didn't ask for a dime. I said, nah. Too much a dog in me, you know what I mean? Not even being proud, it's just focus, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Saying focus automatically generates discipline, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't even know it. Mm-hmm. But how did your early experiences with pets or lack thereof impact your views on dog ownership?
Yeah. So that's a pretty simple question, right? So, I was born not prematurely, but I was very small. I was like 5 pounds wet. Today I'm like 6'2", probably 240, a little over. I need to lose a little weight. I'm not a 240 pound man. I'm probably like a 220 pound man. But anyway, so my parents always said that I had a real problem eating. It was just this little thing. 5 pounds is not much. My mom had me at 16. She got pregnant at 15, had me at 16, came to this country, didn't know anybody, But they told me from very young, I would always act like a little dog, So at 2 years old, and I still remember it clear as day, they got me a German Shepherd. Her name was Lena. Now, understand that my mom is a traditional Sicilian woman. There's plastic runways. There's plastic on the carpet. There's plastic on the couch. There's plastic on the table. You can't get your clothes. You're not hanging in your room. Does that make sense? Oh, can't have a dog inside the house.
Oh my God, yeah, man.
Oh,
you're killing me with memories of my grandma with the plastic on the couches.
But it's the truth.
Yeah, it is the truth. Yeah.
So they got me a German Shepherd, And I remember, like, I would eat. Like, I'm looking at the window, I'm looking at this dog, and she's probably about 80, 90 pounds. Not the German Shepherds you see today with the slanted back. I still remember her conformation because I was obsessed. And but that's how it all started, you know. And then they ended up getting me 2 German Shepherds, and I remember even by the time of 10, I got to tell you a funny story. Just I'll get to it. So we had a couple German Shepherds. I really didn't know who fed them, who didn't take care of them. I mean, my dad worked 7 days a week. Restaurants are always 12-hour days. So he would actually feed them pizzeria food. That's what he told me. Anything scraps from the restaurant, they would eat, you know. I don't know what ended up happening to them, but by the time I was like 10 years old, they ended up getting me a boxer. I had an aunt who used to breed. She's my dad's older sister. She actually bred really nice boxers. Now, she doesn't know anything about breeding, but she just took a really good male and a really good bitch, bred them, and they always make good puppies. And that's how she did that for a couple of generations. You know, it's kind of easy, I guess, to do when you're doing like an F1, F2. But if you're really into the game, then and you don't know what you're doing, you know, they're going to become, because maybe you have a hybrid bigger, you have different bloodlines or whatever the case is, you know. So, I mean, so I remember even though the dogs were not allowed inside the house, I would fall asleep on the garage floor with the dog. You know, they just weren't allowed in. So I'm going to tell you a funny story. And it's funny I'm saying this to thousands of people. But so my mom's sisters are all that way. Not that they're snooty, but they're traditional Italian women. So they look at pets as low. I look at a dog like my companion. You know, I'll take a bullet for my animal. I will. Right. So I remember my aunt came over. She said not very nice things about my boxer. She was a little bitch, you know, little dog. So I got so mad. So I collected all the dog shit in the yard that I could find. Now, this is going back late 80s. So she drove a Honda Accord, the square body Honda Accord with the chrome handles. You know what I mean?
Right.
I grabbed all the dog shit I could find, and with a stick, I lathered every handle.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, she's my mom's younger sister. So she's ready to leave. And man, she gets a handful. She goes and opens the door. She pulls it. It was the best, Joe. She smelled her fingertips. Oh, they started chasing me in the yard. Yeah, you know, it was just, and from a little kid, I was always very protective of my animals, you know, because I got so angry that, you know, she made fun of my beautiful little dog. You know, was the dog beautiful or not? I don't know. It was beautiful to me.
Right.
So, but that passion, it's almost like today, it's like an obsession. But I got away from the dogs a little bit. So, you know, when I became, my dad started bringing me at the restaurant at 9. So 9 years old, I was already helping people. It's pretty easy for me to talk to people. You know, I've been doing this since I was a kid, you know, and, but I got away from it because my family's mindset, everything is always about like money, business, buying properties, buying apartments. That love kind of got away from it. You know, as soon as I started driving, I got into girls, cars, had tons of cars. I probably purchased like 26 cars because something was missing there, like fruitful internally. So I was working my ass off and I'd buy like, a Beamer 3 Series. I'd drive it for 8 months and I'd buy something else. I go buy a Volkswagen, tune it up, make it fast, go buy something. There was just a void, but I got away from dogs for a while. I didn't get back into dogs until my wife and I, we're still together today. We just had our 20-year anniversary this year. We got 2 beautiful kids, but we had dogs because of me. So as soon as the kids were like a little older, say 7 and 5, I got my first pet. So, and that's how that's how that passion kind of got relit. It went dormant for a little bit, you know, but today it's like full blown, you know, the closer I got to God, the higher power, I was very materialistic at one point, you know, everything was about show. You know, I worked my ass off because I needed an amazing physique. I had to drive the best car, had to have the nicest clothes. I don't really care about that today. You know, I want to be strong to be able to protect my family, or God forbid you see like a child abduction, or, you know, or you got to help a little late, whatever. If a tactical situation arises, it's really why I work out, is to help my family or somebody else. I'm not doing it for the big pretty muscles. I just don't care much anymore. Does that make sense?
It make a bunch of sense because in my culture, coming up, we like the cars and stuff. My dad would always tell me, though, he said, man, Uh, he said, you need to be careful where you fix up your cars because when you drive a car, it shouldn't be so easy to be identified. It's a black man driving that car. He did not like that. And then I was like, I always would think about that. You know, we young boys, we out the street.
Oh yeah, Impala SS with the fucking 20-inch rims. I know.
And then so not to be degraded against women, but back in those days, we would have girls who liked stuff like that. They were hood rats. That's what we would call them.
Sure.
And one thing about rats, they like shiny things and cheese. But
hopefully not from under cheese. From under these.
Well, guess who? If they're attracted to it, guess who else attracted to it? Policemen.
Yeah.
If the girls see you, the policemen see you.
Yeah.
So you get kind of all that attraction, and I don't like that much.
A lot of blame.
Yeah, so I never did really get into it. Now I got the muscle cars and stuff like that, but I barely even ride them.
You know, the black culture and the Sicilian culture is not that much different.
Very similar. Yeah.
A lot of bling, a lot of gaudy. They're all loud.
Yeah. Very, yeah.
It's true. It's true.
Car face, all that stuff. We like that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. I told my Uncle Frank one time, you know, I don't know if he's racist, but you know, my views are very different. But I was like, Uncle Frank, I said, you know what happened in Sicily? Why we're a little darker, right?
You might not want to talk about that.
Oh, Uncle Frank. I don't like Uncle Frank. I've disowned most of my family, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, because my views don't align with theirs. Not my intermediate family, not my siblings, but a lot of like my aunts and uncles. I don't know. I just stay in my lane, you know. Yeah.
You said, man, we got a lot of similarities, bro. So I'm looking like I'm talking to myself for some reason. But so we got your early start in dogs and your early love. What's your thoughts on the dog show world?
Oh, I got so much information on that. So I'm at the office and my first pet that I bought was an American Staffordshire Terrier, not a pit bull, an American Staffordshire Terrier. So I really didn't know where to look. You know, there was no like no guide, no handbook, no book to say, hey, you know, which direction do I go? So what I knew was that from a kid, I always used to watch Westminster, always, right? So I loved when Thanksgiving came around because I loved that dog show. I'd watch it every year as a kid. And so I really love the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, you know. So I started going to a lot of shows. Now I live in Pennsylvania near Philadelphia in the suburbs. So my wife and I actually traveled quite a few times. We went to a couple of the big dog shows. We went to Westminster because that was in Oaks. Oaks is only 10 minutes, 15 minutes from us. We went to Jersey, went to New York. And but I ended up getting a larger dog. Compared to the Staffordshire Bull Terrier, because your Staffordshire Bull Terriers are usually like anywhere from like 28 to 38 pounds. Your Amstaffs are a little bigger, you know, more maybe like a pit bull size. So Arlo's about 62 pounds. So that's where I started. But I think what I think about the show world, and I think a lot of it has to do with myself. You know, I am not one for show. I'm a performance human being. Everything I do is for performance. If I'm working in the trenches with my men, I perform. I mean, some of these kids that are half my age, you run circles around them. It's just a mindset thing, you know. And my body was built to work. The good Lord built me to do a lot of physical labor, and I think that's why I'm also a little bigger, is because the years of just stress on my body, right? So going to the you know, if I look at myself how I am phenotypically and genotypically, I gravitate to a working animal. What I've learned is that if I take a human being that is playing video games, has no drive, has no responsibilities, is just pretty, and then I take a human being that's in the trenches, and this, you know, they're very different. I want a very capable, healthy animal, you know, but just because something looks healthy doesn't mean it's healthy. So we'll take my pet Arlo, for example. His grandfather was Bruno. He was best of breed, AKC registered Amstaff. He won 2006, 2007, 2008. Evelyn, I won't mention the last name, but she was the breeder. She was actually a cop down in Philly, which I really admired that. powerful woman, cop, dog. Then his sire was Flash. Again, 13, 14, 15, best of breed, Amstaff. But so I'm thinking at the time, we're going back 10 years now because he's going to be 10 in February. I'm thinking, man, I got this. And Arlo is an amazing pet. We're talking about working dogs here and capability. So at the time, I'm thinking, man, he's beautiful. He's a beautiful dog phenotypically. But what I realized over the years is, let's say working out recovery. I like to train. I like to work out, I think with a lot of the working dog stuff, it's kind of like taking a bodybuilder. Not every bodybuilder, but, I'd rather be like more of an Olympian, CrossFit, something like that, not just physique. And I feel like that's where it's very different. So I've owned a couple different pets. I have Arlo, who's still alive. I had a Dogo Argentino bitch that was a beautiful, amazing dog. I don't want to mention on air what she killed, but pretty much whatever is in the state of Pennsylvania, she sunk her teeth all by herself. Yeah. I had a fence in my property and I had a fence in a couple acres of a cattle fence, right, because she would dispatch unalive big stuff. Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. So, when I started to see, things from the show world, the politics, the money, and I'm looking, then I got like my Dogo. Unfortunately for her health, she died of cancer at 5, which destroyed her family, but, my views started to align toward working dogs. But that's the world that we live in, So to kind of like spin off of this, I think I'm a type of guy, I believe, the closer I got to God, we live in a matrix, right? I think everything here is smoke and mirrors, right? So if I take a look at, I always say, I wish I was born 200 years ago. If I could hunt, gather my food, protect my family, and put that farm to table, I'd be in heaven. I was built for that. Right. Not the plum, you know what I mean? Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's like my dream, but maybe in another life. But I think that, over the course of the years, society has weakened. But I think it's by design. And I think it's by design by the powers that be. So I think we're going to get into food and this and that and everything. But what I do think is that, our ancestors, regardless of race, creed, whatever, gender, this, that, they were just men and women of grit. They were stronger. They were stronger mindset. The environment, epigenetics, right? The environment was tougher. You had to, Mother Nature calls. It's the best calling in the world. So I feel like with the show world, was there dog shows in a couple hundred years ago? Probably not. Anything that they showed was probably in competition, like it or not, if it was dog fighting, bull baiting, bear baiting, whatever it was, but that was the reality of it. But people have gotten very soft today. So I think with the show world, because people have gotten softer mentally and physically, right? A lot of people have sedentary jobs. They're sitting at their desks. That's all they're doing. They're not out in the field. They're not working. That changes you. Those epigenetics change you. When you're working in the cold, your body has to adapt. Things happen internally that make you stronger, generation after generation after generation. So I think I'm not a big fan of the show world. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with show, but if I have a healthy, capable working animal, I feel like they're going to be healthier than show. I want performance. So show is not for me. But I got some notes. What do I have here? Family companions, modern day. Yeah, I basically covered it. The show world destroys a lot of breeds because they become popular.
You're right. I did a little off camera investigating for the last 2 years, and talking with people who are in the show world. And they say, yeah, it's true. I'm like, golly. So when I see, I had some Rottweiler brothers on, which they have a different philosophy. Some of them, but yeah, they are killing it. And then it's almost like a selling tactic or some more some kind of, like, if you ain't doing it this way, you don't fit in. What it's like, they say you have to get So when you're a breeder, you don't have show titles on your dog.
Yeah.
Or you don't have working title. Why? This is the thing I get from a lot of breeders. Why do I have to pay money to go fit in what y'all say what a working dog is? What y'all doing what a working dog is? So that's the pushback on that.
I think I think about it a step further, right? So we talk about how, like, a society that is, mentally and physically weak is easier to be manipulated, right?
Yes.
Because today, this is the jail. You don't need bars. This is your jail, because they control the information you see and hear, and they control you. And now they're trying to control our food and the chemicals they spray in the air with the chemtrails. Like, that's all real, Yeah. But I feel like it goes a step further, because I feel like if I have a society of alpha men and women, and these alpha men and women have working animals that protect them, they have guns, they have this, and they have whatever else, weapons, it's going to be much harder of a takeover, right? So I think by the powers that be, maybe they're different species, are they humans, are they not? Big conspiracy theorists, is that it's been designed, the show world, decade after decade after decade, like thought had been put into this by the powers that be to make things popular, to weaken man, which they knew eventually it would weaken the animals that protect them.
Yeah.
I think it goes much deeper than that. It's not just about the show. I think it goes so much more deeper than by design. It's all by design, But that's my view on the show world. Would I ever buy another show dog? I love Arlo to death. He's actually with me. He's very quiet. He's sleeping. He's going to be 10 in February, so he's just chilling. But most of the show dogs, like, they're low prey drive. The only civil aggression he ever had, if I'm not home. You have to be careful around my wife and kids if I'm not home, right? Right. Yeah. But besides that, athletic ability, he looks athletic, but he's not. So I feel like, all that stuff. How fast can an animal recoup? The mitochondria system, just all of it. How much can they endure? That's the stuff that's not measured in the show world, which is so important. So I'm not a big fan of the show world. I would never buy another show dog.
I get it. Yeah, I get it. 100% get it.
Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah. That you made it plain. Let's get into the importance of choosing the right dog. In your opinion, what key factors should someone consider when selecting a family dog?
Oh, so family dog, I would say, I think lifestyle is very important. And I know, I could tell you from my personal experience, well, I'll name the 4 pets I've had. So I still have Arlo. He's an American Staffordshire Terrier from the KC show world, right? Then I had a Dogo bitch that was not a show dog. Her sire and the family of dogs that she came from, they would, they dispatched deer. Some of them even got cattle, so they were working dogs, one of my dearest friends, and I have the utmost respect for, is for this man right here, Lee Robinson.
Oh, Lee, yeah. What's up, Lee?
Lee Robinson has become a dear friend, right? He's a sweetheart. He's actually helped me get closer to God as well. But I've owned an American Sentinel. So when we got her, she's an amazing dog. She is his Chewy. She's one of his house dogs. So I went from like a show dog to like a hunting dog. My Dogo bitch was different disposition. So she was dog aggressive. She was obviously animal aggressive, but she had a different disposition. I was then looking for like a personal protection dog. Never having owned one or put my hands on one, I decided to get one from the best. I got one from Lee. She turned out to be an amazing dog. She now lives back with him. But this is where I'm going to get into where you really have to know what you're getting into, right? So when I got Libby, who's now Chewy, the reason why it was a hard decision, not for my family, it was actually a decision that took me about 2 to 3 months to decide. That's why, I had asked her, would you like to take her back? He never wanted to sell her to me because she was the pick of the litter, But phenotypically and genotypically, she is everything that a Sentinel is. But she is like the very, very extreme version. Mm-hmm. She's like your top 5%, probably, whatever he ever bred. You know, right. He loves that dog. They're like the best of friends. I talk to Lee every week. Yeah. But for me, what I didn't realize and didn't consider is that I wanted, if I'm not home, I want to make sure that my family's secure. I love my family, you know, and I wanted a dog that, you know, was able to protect them, that had the phenotype and the drive and the prey drive, because I love dogs that want to hunt, that have that animal aggression. I just like it, you know, but you have to have a balance, and everybody is different. So what I realized for me was, I'm in my office. Sometimes you have unexpected guests. Life happens, right? Now, in my control, she's totally fine. My dogs understand who is the pack leader.
Right.
It's just in me, you know. They understand it. It doesn't matter what breed I get. They're going to understand that I'm the boss.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So she was very low rank with the family. She was extremely sweet. Never an ounce of aggression, anything like that, you know. But she was extremely civil aggressive and very animal aggressive, you know, which I liked. But what didn't I consider? What I didn't consider was, am I going to spend the next 12 years of my life? You know, I work like an animal around the clock. Am I not going to be able to go on vacation with my wife and children? I mean, I lost over a decade with my kids, not seeing them growing up in front of me because I'm working 7 days a week. So I started realizing that this particular bitch, you know, I would spend multiple hours a day. So I'm up at 4. She's in the gym with me. She's doing her own little workout while I'm training. At nighttime, she needed to exert that energy.
Right.
And I saw it from very young that this dog was very different, because at 3 months old, I had an Amazon driver come to my house, and Arlo is at the gate wagging his tail, you know, in the medium energy. But this little puppy, I was watching her from my camera because I got cameras everywhere. She's actually running to the guy 20 feet away, barking at him, coming to me. And I'm like, this little puppy is already telling me that this dude shouldn't be there. So I could already see phenotypically, you know, I don't need to be a dog trainer, you know, I could just sense it in my being that this dog is different. Yeah. But with that comes a lot of liability if your lifestyle doesn't align with that.
Facts.
Because this little dog was so capable. Now, she's only going to probably be 75 pounds, but she could easily chew through that gunner kennel that I bought her. She could easily chew through my front door. I've seen her scale a 5-foot fence, and I didn't teach her how to jump. I didn't want to teach my dogs how to jump and jump fences. But what happens if I'm not home? That was starting to be my concern.
Yeah.
My wife couldn't walk her. My kids couldn't walk her. My son's 16, but he's not like me. He's into different things, you know? So it was, it was an emotional decision for me, because I kind of felt like, you know, I failed her in a way, but I wanted to do the right thing. So I met with Lee. We met halfway in Tennessee, and I gave her back to him. And now she's thriving, but she was a very extreme version of the American Sentinel. I just ended up with her, you know? Right. So, but God works in mysterious ways. She was with me for a while. She had amazing husbandry. I took care of her. She ate raw. We couldn't love on that dog and take care of anymore, you know, but that comes with a responsibility. So I would say to the old me, if I'm looking for, one is I'm going to look at my lifestyle. What kind of living quarters do I have? You know, because you breed Corsos and Central Asian Shepherds. Okay. You know, if I live in an apartment in New York City, am I going to get a Central Asian Shepherd? No. I'm going to get maybe a little Boston Terrier, you know, or something a little lower key, a little poodle, labradoodle, or whatever, you know. So I think being realistic with yourself, it cannot be a selfish decision. It cannot. You know, the first 2 dogs I got were based just me. You know, I got, you know, Libby because me. You know, because I'm thinking like, you know, I'm making a decision for my family. But I think it has to be, if you're married and you want to stay married, you know,
good point.
Right? You know, you have to be able to have an open discussion with your family. You know? So, I mean, again, you know, we lost our Dogo in 3323. Then we got Libby. Then I had to bring her back after like 9 months. I gave her to Lee. So my little daughter was like distraught, you know. So you want to make sure right off the bat that you make a good decision, because you don't want your family to suffer if you love your family, right? Right. So if you introduce an animal into your house, and we're going to get into the adopt, don't shop if we have time.
Oh yeah, we would most definitely.
I hate that phrase. That is the worst phrase in the world, right?
Right.
But you have to know what you're getting into. You got to talk to your family. You got to talk to your kids or your kids in sports. Does your business require for you to travel a lot? You know, if you're not home, is your wife willing to do the work? Somebody has to take care of this animal, you know? So I think, and then what kind of dog do you want? You know, do you want a protection dog? Do you want just for play? You got to do your homework. You have to really do your homework. And if you don't know anything about breeds, there's herding breeds or personal protection dogs, you got to do your work.
Yeah.
That's
get into the types of dogs, Anthony. Go ahead, and if you don't mind. Yeah,
I mean, from what comes to mind, you got service type dogs. Are you a hunter? Do you want like upland dogs? Like I used to do a lot of upland hunting when I was young, and they used a lot of like Brittany's, German pointers. Those are great little dogs. 60-pound dogs, but it's got to really suit your lifestyle. I had the shepherds when I was young. She was protected. I mean, I knew if somebody was at the gate as a little boy, I already could hear that dog bark. That woo, woo, woo. It was a very particular bark that a German shepherd does. Right. So your Rottweilers, your Doberman Pinschers, you really have to know. Or maybe you don't want animals that are so civil aggressive. Maybe you're looking for maybe a corgi, or an Australian shepherd or something like that. Even though some of them are pretty tenacious, Maybe you like to run. So if you like to run, you're not going to go buy a Frenchie. It has to line up with your views. It has to line up with your lifestyle. Sometimes people want a big protective dog. What kind of vehicles do you have? Because I did a quick calculation, right? Because it also comes down to money, right? Because people don't want to spend the money up front. They're like, $3,000 for a dog? You're crazy. I could go to Lancaster in Pennsylvania and buy one at a puppy mill for $300. It's all relative. If you buy a shitty work truck that is costing you 10 grand and you got to go put 30 grand into it in the course of 5 years, you could have bought a brand new one for 10% more and have no problems and be efficient making money. You know what I mean? So dogs are the same way, because you're going to spend it one way or another. Find a good breeder, buy a good quality animal, know exactly what you're getting into, so there's no surprises. Don't think that you're getting a little dog and it turns out to be a 120-pound Mastiff and you're like, what happened? Then they end up in a shelter, then you mess up the dog, then they get killed. It's you got to do your homework. You got to be responsible. You got to be an adult. But I did a quick calculation at one time. I'm like, all right, if I took a 35-pound dog, and my dogs always ate raw, and we'll get into that, why I chose raw. But, where's that calculation? I wrote it down. It was just a quick calculation that, So I calculated and this is from a homeowner. This is from, an owner point of view. Obviously, if you're a breeder, if you're doing your own vaccinations, if you're doing that's all different. I'm just talking from, an average Joe owning a good dog, making sure that animal's taken care of, well fed, what does that cost? Well, if you have an animal that you're going away multiple times a year, you got to pay somebody to watch it, right? Nobody factors that in. How about all the time that's taking you away from your business? Nobody factors that in. You could easily spend, what was it? Here it is. So I wrote it down. If you have an animal that's 35 to 50 pounds over the course of, say, 12 to 13 years, if it's a very healthy animal, break it down. I break everything down like business. Put it on a spreadsheet or break it down, right? But if I buy a bag of raw dog food, it's $12 a day, times 365, that's $4,500 a year. In 12 years, it's $53,000.
Yeah.
That's just food.
Right?
But really break it down, Then by the time you buy leashes and good gear and stuff like that, add another 10, just say. So now you're at 63. Then you got miscellaneous about bills. If you got a working dog, that individual is going to get into something.
Yeah, you're gonna tear something up.
Right, right. So that's going to cost you either money in liability, money in court if you're not responsible, in vet bills. You could easily spend $75,000 in 12 to 13 years with a blink of an eye. That's a smaller dog. You know, are you willing to put that in there? Because the problem is that, you know, people see these ads, especially around the holidays, adopt, don't shop, and this and that. And then, but you're not doing it because you really want it. You know, you have to make sure when you make decisions like business, you have to make an educated decision, but not based on emotions. You have to really break down, you know, and that's how you make your decision. And I think introducing an animal into your house, it's a huge responsibility. I don't think people take it as serious as they should, because if they took it as serious as they should, we wouldn't have ASPCAs. You wouldn't have all this bullshit, you know, because that animal is going to stay at that house. They're going to take care of it. But I think people today are like so lackadaisy with so many decisions that they make. And I think the mentality today, you know, go back 40 years ago, if something broke, you're going to fix it.
Right.
You know, the human being was wired different. We're going to make this thing last. I'm going to fix this thing. I'm going to fix it 10 times before I get rid of it. You know, it's going to rot before I'm done with it. You know, today, I just get a new one.
Throw it out. Yeah.
And that's like that with relationships. That's like that with everything. And I think that's wrong. But when you're looking at, you know, big business, that's the type of client they want. That's the kind of society they want for them to make money. Because if people aren't throwing shit out, you know what I mean, and buying new, they're not making money. So you can see by the powers that be, it really applies everywhere. Yeah,
they make it. It's just a consumer. Yeah, it's like a big monster.
You know? Yeah, it is. It is. It's hard to stop that monster because, you know, they're titans today.
Yeah, elitists.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Does that answer your question, Joe, with a little bit?
Yes, sir.
We're doing pretty good. Am I providing you with like enough information just from like an average Joe perspective?
You killing it, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah. So in our notes too, you was talking about breeds of dogs. Yeah. Did you want to get into that? And if I'm going too fast, I'm missing something.
No.
Okay.
So when we're talking about breed of like specific breeds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, it goes to what does a person want? You know, so like if I were to recommend somebody, and let's say I was to create some kind of guide or a handout, and most people today are very intellectual, but unfortunately people have lost the instinctual side, at least in the United States. I'm sure some of these third world countries, they're still savages. They have that instinct. You know what I mean? You know, so I would say first, you know, what do you want? You know, do you want an estate protection dog, like a junkyard dog? You know, do you want a personal protection dog? They're different. You know, my Libby, my Chewy, my American Sentinel, she was a personal protection dog. If I didn't have the control over her the way I had, she will chew you up. No question about it. I've seen it many times. You know, so you have to know what you're getting into. Then you have like home protection. You know, then you have security work, you have law enforcement, you know, maybe like your Dutch Shepherds, your Malinois, you know, your German Shepherds, you know, but you got to know. Then you have like your herding dogs. It could be a border collie, could be a corgi, could be a shepherd. You know, in my younger years, I did a lot of, like I said, I mentioned before, hunting. Then you have your sporting breeds, like your Labradors, your Golden Retrievers, your Cocker Spaniels. And then, you know, you have all your hounds. You have sight hounds, you have your bloodhounds. A lot of my residential customers, you see like beagles and dachshunds. I tell you, beagles are nasty. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Like a real beagle?
Yeah.
They're not friendly.
Yeah.
There's like two types of beagles. One's like a little bigger. One's like 15 inches, I think, at the withers, and one's like 13. They're nasty. I have a couple customers that have them because, you know, being a plumber and having a business and being inside of people's homes.
Oh, yeah.
You have to be careful sometimes. And, you know, from a technical side, don't pet every dog. Don't look at every dog.
That's right. That's right.
You know, that's most people.
This is something I'm trying to instill in my kids because they growing up around big dogs. They not scared of anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, y'all can't leave other people's dogs alone. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And people don't most people, they can't read body language to save anything. There's many times I'll be walking on the trail, and now Arlo is, he is dog aggressive. He's not looking for a fight, but if a
Right.
dog comes up to him, he's going to bite him because it's happened before.
Right.
So many times I got to tell people, yo, my dog's not friendly, and it's okay to tell people that, because if I come into your space and into your face and you don't know me, how would you react? But people can't correlate that to the dogs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's very simple. We make everything as humans very complicated, but the animal kingdom is very simple. So, knowing what you want, I think now for me, I've always loved like your terriers.
Yeah.
Like obviously the American Pit Bull Terrier, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, which I have. We ended up. We're talking about making those selfless decisions for your family.
Yeah.
When my daughter Sonia, when our doggo passed, because my doggo bitch slept with her every night. Now that is work, because I had to redo my entire laundry room. I installed a doggy shower, like tiled it, beautiful, right? Because I got to make sure there's no ticks. I got to make sure she's washed. Remember, my wife's traditional Italian. Yeah. My house has to be clean. We don't wear shoes.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So that dog looked like a black lab every day. I had to make sure after every day, didn't matter how late it was, I cleaned it, because that dog would have to be dried off and sleep in the bed with my daughter. But so when I get to talk about selfless decision, after Lee got our Sentinel, I decided, you know what? My daughter's young once. She's 14. Let me get a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. Now, I like working dogs. So who else? I reached out to Brian Austin from Steadfast. You had him on your show.
Yeah. What's up, dude?
Big shout out to Brian. Brian is very genuine, man. Very kind.
Oh, yeah.
The way I went down to Lee's yard, met Lee, met his beautiful family. They're wonderful people. I met those dogs. What an experience. Talk about walking through, and it's kind of like you're walking down, it's like prison mates, they just want to eat you, take you up, when I went to Brian's yard, he was very welcoming, so I met a lot of his Staffordshire Bull Terriers. Very sweet. They're all workers, so they'll dispatch groundhogs and varmint, and you don't realize how powerful those little dogs are until you physically see them. Like the sire to my little puppy, Gus, is my dad's name. I was like, oh, it's a sign. Italians, everything's a sign. Right. So I went down there, and but they were very sweet. So one of the reasons was, not only do I love this breed, but my daughter's 14. She's going to be little once, So I decided to get a Staffordshire Bull Terrier. One, because I love the breed, and she always wanted a little dog. Now, you'll never see me walk like a Pomeranian or Chihuahua. I'm never doing it. I'm not that type of man. Right. That's as small as I'm going to go, but they're still fierce little dogs.
Right. Yeah.
So, I would say, know what you're getting into. Do your homework. Spend the time. It might take you a couple months to actually start looking at phenotypically what you want. Okay, what are these dogs' characteristics? What are their disposition? What kind of work would they use for? Start to really give you an idea. But for me to go to the SPCA and see a dog where you have no history, for me, the well-being of my family is very important. I need to know what abilities, what triggers those animals, what makes them tick. I'm not just going to, yes, your hearts, most of these societies and organizations, the powers that be, they manipulate our heartstrings. That's how they get your money. It's all about money and power, right? But they manipulate that. So you got to be really careful. Do your homework. Be patient. Be patient.
Yeah. Definitely be patient when you're looking for a dog. And like you say, these groups that's against ethical dog breeders, but they telling you adopt, don't shop, but you still got to shop with them.
Of course. Of course. Then they're bringing in dogs from China. They're bringing
all over the place. Dogs, you don't know anything about the dogs. You know what I'm saying? So
just like Big Pharma, brother.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's crazy, but we gotta speak up about it, because the propaganda they shooting right now is no, this we can't be going for that. Things are going to change. 2025, I already feel it.
Oh yeah,
It's going to be some hardening of the cultures.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it got to be. We don't got too weak.
No, and it's everybody sees color,
Yeah,
today, in
yeah,
anything.
man. You can't even crack a racial joke nowadays.
No.
You get man. You get man. We used to crack jokes back and forth with culture jokes of Richard Pryor. All them guys, they couldn't exist today.
Oh my goodness, Richard Pryor, he was funny.
Oh boy,
Oh, it's
man.
so
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. We done got so weak. Just almost tribal. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
culturally, we all gonna have difference, but human beings are human beings. You know what I mean? And we all been living here in America a long time, or wherever else we live in the world. And some of it you can tell is kind of set up for the division because if they don't keep us divided, they can't keep rule. You know what I mean? So we
yeah.
got so.
Well, it goes back to like the Colosseum days, right?
Mhm.
What would the Caesar, the emperor, do when the people started to uproar? Let me put your show. Let me feed you bread and wine. You
Yeah.
know, and then after the show's gone, everybody goes back to work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's how they keep you busy. I never play sports. I like more like tactical combative stuff because
Yeah.
I feel like that stuff you could use it on the daily to protect yourself or protect a loved one.
Yeah.
But I never played sports, but I view sports that way. Every sport to me, if you take a look at like the Masonic symbols and, if it's a baseball field, it's a Freemason symbol. If you take a look at a football stadium, it looks like a Coliseum.
Right.
But everything's like that. They're going to put, they're going to use the color card. They're going to use a political card. They're going to use the sports, because for me, everything's about energy. Energy is not created nor destroyed.
Mhm.
But if you're operating a lower vibrational state, there's more anxiety, more pain, more anguish, versus when you start to elevate.
Yeah. Yeah.
So society's that way. That's why you never really see good stuff on the news. Everything is bad. It puts you in a very low vibrational state. But
Yeah.
imagine, I think what the United States, what makes it very special is it is all the different cultures.
Mhm.
Because imagine if everybody was the same. Imagine if you had the same colors. How fucking boring would life be?
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that's
you
what
gonna be
makes it
able to
beautiful.
experience it. Let me go over here and experience that. You got
That's
more.
right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's
Right.
right.
Right. So
And animals are that way too, because you
Mhm.
can't just look at a dog and say, "Oh, it's a pretty dog. I'm going to get down."
no, something
No,
different
we
about
hate.
it. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You're 100% right, man. Yeah. So I just uh I'm aware of stuff like that. And like you, you know, I I know you don't got time to watch TV. I never hardly watch
I
TV.
never watch TV.
Unless it's funny. It's what you only kind of type of TV I watch if it's boxing or combat sports. And if
Yeah.
we ain't doing that, we at my son's wrestling practice, doing combat sport. That I'm into that. I'm all into that.
Which
Yeah.
wrestling is so good. My son never did wrestling. I never played sports, but like my father, because of his upbringing, he got me into karate very early. So
Okay, cool.
from 7 years old to 13, I did taekwondo. Then from 13 to 17, it was pancrase before the UFC. So 13, I was already going against like men, like adults, which I would be at the counter and I had about all these lacerations because at the game, I'm like, hey, can I help you? Would you like a slice? And I'm all like black eyes and, but and then the Krav Maga. But I think doing, especially wrestling, I think it's so important because the mental and physical stress is going to help you in daily life. Because
Yeah.
if you train harder than your daily life requires, if you do things that make you very uncomfortable, it's just going to make you a stronger version of yourself. Life is going to be easier, so you have to be able to push. You got to do the shit. Got to do the shit that you don't like.
Right. That's true.
Learn to love it.
You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
I remember I have jobs.
Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Tyson.
I remember I have jobs. And I say, man, I need a few extra men. They send me young guys on basketball scholarships, and I'll get them out there working. And oh, I'm like, man, I thought you was on a basketball scholarship, bro. But they mentally weak. They go outside, man. I tell you what, skills pay the bills. physical hand work,
Yeah,
they forgetting about it, and that's the big paying money now
I know.
nowadays. Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah. Let me get back on this thing.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, husbandry. Wait. Sorry.
Breeder qualifications.
Breeder qualifications. Let's talk
Oh,
about that.
this is a good one.
Yeah. What are you looking for in a breeder?
Wow. So if I were to tell, the old me, I would, genetics are very important. You know, I do believe that, genetics are very important. Finding the right breeder is of the utmost importance because, you know, the representation behind the dog is the man or that woman that's breeding them. That's everything,
Oh yeah.
because that relationship continues. After you get that animal, it's not where the relationship ends, it's where it begins.
Mm-hmm.
So having a vital source, having that coach in your corner that is a good coach, that is a good breeder, it's only going to make you more successful.
Right.
The other thing too is having a genetically sound animal that is sound in temperament, that is physically healthy, that is everything you want it to be, is going to make you happier. It's going to be easier, and healthy, because now you're not going to the vet. You're not. So I think finding a good breeder is really important. I think, but where would I start? I would start, one is today we have all these platforms, social media.
Yeah.
I think you have to be, once you figure out and you do your homework, okay, I figured out the type of dog I want, whether it's herding, whether it's protection, whether it's junkyard, or I narrowed it down. Then you narrowed it down to the breed. Now you did that homework. Now you want to narrow it down to the breeder. It's just kind of like a pyramid.
Yeah.
So I would say see if you could find somebody. Obviously, if you're dealing with somebody in your area, which is not always an option, I've always had to go out of state, because I'm very particular what I'm looking for. But if you're able to find somebody close, great. If you can't, start looking at social media pages. We have that today. 20 years ago, we didn't have that. But one of my favorite sayings is Dan Penna, the silent billionaire. He's like, show me your 5 friends and I will show you your future.
Yeah.
You have to look at that culture. What do you want? What are you looking for? So look at the social media page, personal and business. Do their views align with yours? It's very important.
It's true. Yeah.
It's so important. It's like any business, right? If a client calls us at the office and we don't answer and we take a day or two to get back to them. Now, maybe with breeding is a little different, small breeders, because I usually find that small breeders are better because they're not worried so much about not making a profit, because you need money in business to keep your program going, but they're probably putting more emphasis, So you have to be a little patient, but are they at least getting back to you in a timely fashion? I think that's important, because it's kind of like that taillight contractor. Are they doing a job for you? Then all you see is their taillights. You never hear from them again.
Yeah.
Right. So you really got to do your homework there. Ask them questions like, what made you get in this breed? How long have you been breeding for? Who are some of your mentors? Do they have any references? Could I talk to some of your clients? If they give you a couple clients, jump on that client's social media page. Do they really have that dog?
Yeah.
I've been burned, and I've been burned in the puppy purchasing process before, but I will say this, as a professional, we always have to act professional. I think that's very, very important. If somebody else says something right or wrong, it doesn't, to me, it doesn't justify. Let it be. It's water under the bridge. Learn from it. Life is building blocks, So, ask them, is there certain kind of contracts in place? Do you allow, potential customers to visit your yard? I know for breeders, that's very sticky when it comes to the health of the animals and, maybe viruses and bacteria and stuff like that, because, not everybody is mindful, of that.
Yeah.
And also, on a breeder side, to protect them, who is this individual coming to my yard? Are they really like an enemy? They're really trying to see my operation, because you don't understand the way the world works. The world is very Luciferian today.
Yeah, it is. And then family safety for me. My I don't call my program a facility. It's my home.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? My dogs are everywhere. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So yeah. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
family safety is another issue when it comes to breeders about
Yeah.
who they let into their homes. Yeah.
And sometimes I've talked to Lee about this because Lee truly has amazing, amazing dogs when it comes to personal protection. Um, but the liability aspect, right? Now his dogs are personal protection. You know, the feeling that I got there, I mean, that feeling energized me. It was like, I was so pumped when I walked through his kennels. Talk about animal husbandry. The way Lee keeps his dogs is fucking pristine. I mean, really, the animal husbandry is like on another level. They were just spotless. But you have to be careful, even though, you know, everything is double latched, gated, you know, 9-gauge steel fencing. Every link is like linked with steel. You know, what happens if you have somebody that is looking like ill will and decides to pop their finger in that kennel, and that dog pulls her finger? What kind of liability on the breeder does that, you know,
Right.
take place?
Right.
So a breeder has to be careful too. You know what I mean? I don't know how you really do that, but definitely see if you can visit the breeder. Are there contracts in place when you're purchasing a pup? I will say from personal experience, I made one or two mistakes because, you know, I've been burned a lot. I've been screwed so many times, Joe, in business. I should be pregnant. Not in a transgender way, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but you know, I've made mistakes where when it comes to dogs, I kind of wear my heart on my sleeve a little bit, but you know, I'm curving that as well. You know, life's about learning, but I would say be very careful with puppy contracts. You know, I've made a mistake before where, you know, I put a deposit down and, you know, this particular breeder didn't have the funds to, after so many months and maybe let's say a ghost pregnancy and it didn't manifest, like they never had puppies. When it was when I asked for my deposit back, then they didn't have it. You know, was it true or false? So all I'm saying is do your due diligence. You know, make sure that what I would say is, like in business, if I write up a contract for a customer, let's say it's a $20,000 job, I'm not going to take 50% from my customer because I want my customer to feel secure, right? Mm-hmm. So I'd probably either do like quarter, or do my terms different. So what I would recommend is to somebody that found the breeder, now it's time to sign the puppy contract, sign it. But if you're going to do a deposit, maybe just do 10 to 15, 20%. Don't do anything more than that.
No.
You know? Because most breeders, maybe their heart's in the right place, but I can tell you from following a lot of people, doesn't make them a good businessman.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but a lot of them don't have the business acumen that's needed, and because discipline is involved.
Yeah,
you know, when you're handling monies and things like that,
accountability.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
So you have to look at that. You know, you have to look at that because what I've learned is the way somebody runs their personal finances is the way they run their life.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So do your due diligence here. You know, do your homework.
Right.
And then, you know, a big one for me is besides, like, you know, are they professional? Are their facilities clean? Do their animals look clean if you have an opportunity to visit them? You know what I mean? Or is there a previous owner that maybe lives closer? Maybe the breeder's out of state, but can you ask them for a reference? Maybe there's a reference close by. You could visit that dog and see what the adult dog or mature dog looks like. Like, do your homework. Don't just rush into it.
Right. Yeah. That's one of the first things Lamont taught me. Go to the kennel. No,
Mr. Lamont.
Yeah. No. Go to the kennel, man. And that's gonna tell you so much. It's gonna tell you so much. It's gonna tell you the size, the temperament, everything you want to see. Because if you don't do it, you'll go out there or you might be surprised. Those dogs may be way smaller than what you think, than what you see on social media.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, and it's some tricks involved in that to make a dog look bigger on camera, I can tell.
Yeah. See them in their natural habitat, what they're used to, you know. And, you know, and your cousin too. I've talked to Lamont a couple of times. He's a nice man.
Oh yeah,
You know, he's very straightforward.
yeah.
I tell you what, that guy must have been a pistol in his heyday, though. I get that vibe, but he was a pistol. Well, listen, I'm not a gay man, but he's a good-looking brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's got a beautiful family.
Yeah,
he's doing some good things over there.
Man, he got daughters that
I know.
If I put them on this channel, they'll outdo most of the men on here.
I believe it.
They was raised up in it, like, you know.
Yeah, he does a good job with what he does with the kids and the sports.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Shout out to you, Lamont.
Yeah, what's up, Lamont? Yeah, I talked to him for 2 hours yesterday. Yeah.
I'm a big fan. So, the other thing too is today, like, you know, in my field, the word tradesman, I take that word very serious. You know, I went to school for many years, 20 years. I had to get master license after merit, after credential. Unfortunately, in our society, we don't have like the typical requirements for somebody to call themselves a breeder. Everybody thinks they're a breeder. You know, that frustrates me because I'm like so particular, you know, in the way I run my life and things that I believe in, that not everybody should be a breeder. Yeah. You know, being a breeder, you have to have like a gift. You do. You have to have like a genetic gift that's in you, the eye, the touch, but you also need the knowledge, the wisdom. So I would say that be very wary of people that is like smoke and mirrors, flashing, you know.
Flashy, yeah, bam, yeah.
Just do your due diligence, you know.
Yeah.
And then the opposite of the people that speak the gospel all the time, and you know what I mean, and Lord this and Lord that. So you know, find that balance.
Yeah,
you know,
that's funny. We speaking of Lamont, and he talked about this. I was on a 2-hour phone call with him yesterday. He talked about this, the same thing you talked about. Really? That admiration of being this big breeder of old, like your Lee Robinsons, like some of the guys we know. That's not going to happen. Like what? It's too many people doing it. No, you know, and there's not enough people doing it the right way. Yeah. So that some of you guys who dream on living off the dogs or being that type, it ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen for a lot of guys. I'm content on being small and working with the best I can. Yeah. I go get it from around the world. I don't care. Yeah. As long as I got the best, you know what I mean? That's right. Yeah. Because, you know, most really good breeders, you know, they're breeding for themselves. You've heard like Lee talk about it a lot. Right. I've heard you say it, you know, they're not breeding for their client. It's not a puppy mill. Right. You know, so you breed what you believe in, because at the end of the day, the more passionate you are about the obsession about what you're doing, you're only going to want to make it better. You know, then you find that people, you're going to find, it's like magnetism. You're going to find people attracted to that product, you know, and they're going to come in on their own, you know. Right. But yeah, definitely with breeders, watch your money, do your homework, do your due diligence, take your time. You know, even as simple as like, hey, who's your vet? You know, could I talk to your vet? Talk to the vet. I know it sounds silly, but, you know, what do they have to say with them? You know what I mean? Like if an employee leaves me and then another business owner calls me and they say, hey, you know, this guy left on what terms, you know, be professional, never badmouth. But, you know, you could see right away instinctually just the way maybe that vet might answer that phone. Does he return your call? Did you have to leave him 2 messages? Is he lying? I never heard of this guy before. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's different avenues to find. You just have to just think about it, you know? So what else do I got? But no, I think that covered it for the most part. Yeah, I think you got that. That answer most of your question, you know? Yes, sir. You own it, dog, on it. Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity, Joe. I love talking to you. I love listening to you, you know? This is wonderful. So the next thing we wanted to chat about was animal husbandry. Yeah. I would say, man, Lee Robinson is a perfect example of this. I think it's going to come with responsibility. So, you know, the way I take care of my dogs, you know, the way they eat, the way they exercise, the way they're taken care of is it's better than 99% of people treat their kids. That's just me, you know.
most people say, well, an animal is an animal. No, I totally get it, but, I feel like the better that animal, the healthier the animal is, the better it's taken care of. Animals are animals, yes, but an animal does understand that my owner is taking care of me. You could see that that's receptive, it goes back and forth. So I think, again, I guess feeding them, taking care of them, having the right gear, exercise, that all takes time is money. So you don't just purchase a car. It's not like buying a car, you let it sit in the garage. You buy this muscle car and you drive it once a week. That animal is living, that beast is living, breathing inside your house. It's going to require your time. Mm-hmm. So, you could end up with a beautiful phenotypically animal, but if you're not putting the proper care in it, you're going to mess it up.
Right.
It could be maybe too much energy. Maybe it's too much drive. Now it starts to become destructive. Now, because it's being destructive, you're getting upset because at the animal, when you have to look in the mirror and say, and that was one thing I had to learn when I got a dogo, is I didn't realize what kind of drive. I never had a dogo, so really know what you're getting into,
Right.
Don't pass the buck. If you're getting a dog for your family, be responsible. Mm-hmm. You got to clean up the yard. You got to wash the dog, clip the nails, take it to the vet. That's all time. Mm-hmm. It's almost really no different almost than a child. Sometimes it's more because a child is your child.
Yeah.
It's just, it's a genetic connection. You made your child, this is an animal. Yeah. So you really have to, because there's people that own dogs, and I've heard this, I didn't come up with this phrase. I've heard it on your show. Then there's dog people. Yeah. I'm a pet owner, but I'm a dog person. Right. I'll do anything for the animal. So it doesn't matter if I'm working a 16-hour labor day. If I got to come home and take care of that animal, that's a duty.
Got to be done. Yeah.
That's the mindset. That's the grind. Right.
Yeah.
If you're sick, if whatever it is, you got the flu, it doesn't matter. You got to get your ass up.
Got to get up there.
You got to go. So I think animal husbandry is really, really important. I think it has to be being selfless. Mm-hmm. Take care of the animals, give them good food, making sure the water's always changed. They need their exercise. Arlo, my Amstaff, he's like medium to low energy. A couple mile walk, even from puppyhood, that was fine. My American Staffordshire, my American Sentinel, that was like 6 miles almost every other day. Yeah. How many hours is that? I didn't have a dog trotter.
Right.
So, you got to put in the time, and you can't make excuses. Mm-hmm. So it was your decision to get the dog. Right. It wasn't the dog's decision to come to you.
Right.
So
right.
Understand that, those dogs, if you have a good, healthy animal, I think people today are living to 85 years old. That animal could live 10 to 12%, 13% of your life.
Yeah.
That is dedication.
It is.
It's not a 9-to-5 job where, hey, on the weekend, Saturday, Sunday, I'm putting away.
Right.
You can't have
man. I want to ask you about that sweater you got on. Who's that guy there?
Oh, this guy. Oh, Mr. Sneed.
Well, I bet that boy there from Arkansas.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Them Arkansas boys.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give a shout out to Brad. So Brad, ever since it kind of sparked something in me ever since I saw Brad on your show. I never heard of Brad,
Yeah.
And I saw him on your show. And then, man, it brought when my dogo died, as a grown man, Joe, I'll be honest with you. I'm a pretty tough guy, and I'm not an emotional guy. I put the blinders on, I do my work, regardless how I feel. I just get it done. Mm-hmm. But when my dogo passed so quick, I was building the shop that I'm in now. So this dog started to probably feel sick like a month or two before. But because I was working 7 days a week, working Avanti, but also building this new infrastructure. That dog, I felt like, I didn't see that dog get sick in front of me. Does that make sense? Because I was so busy, so consumed with life, Right. So, I always had a little bit of guilt. I'm like, I love this dog. And even though she's so well taken care of, I didn't see the signs. Right. Now, that wouldn't have changed anything because it was a blood cancer. you know. But long story short, when I saw when she passed, I'm like, I'm never going to get another dogo. And I love that dog. I love everything she was about, you know, family protector, very balanced, just amazing individual. But she died quick. And as I started to do a lot more research, it was starting to become very common, because I won't mention the breeder who I got it from, but, you know, my dog lived for 5.5 years. And this is the importance of going back to breeders, right? Because I always like to stay in contact with the breeder. I'll call, hey, how are you? How's things go? Well, what I started to realize when her name was Chichi. Chichita means little piggy, because they're boar hunting dogs, right? So we named her Chichita. So when Chichi died, when she was 2, I called the breeder and I started talking to the breeder, asking questions. The one thing that ever stood out, and she might have said this by mistake, and she's a nice lady, but she's like, well, we have the dogs because it helps with, like, you know, our vacations but then she bit her tongue, right? No, to me, no ethical, good breeder is going to breed and make a remark like that.
Yeah.
So
I don't know what vacation is.
Right. Right. So why would you say it? So in the back of my mind, the wheel started spinning. So I started realizing that some of the family of dogs that my dog came from started prematurely dying. So internally, like when she was 3 and 4, I started getting a feeling. And then as she got sicker, before she even showed signs of being sick, between her breath and her vagina, not to sound disgusting, but it gave a particular smell that almost smelled like body rot. And I mentioned this to the vet, and they never said anything, but it was like that instinct between man and beast. So I kind of feared it was coming. So she passed pretty quick in a couple months, you know. She was totally out of, like, the white blood cells, and it just happened so quick. But having a good vet is very important. That's probably a story for another day. But anyway, so it got me away from the breed, because the more I followed different dogo breeders, I'm like, they're breeding this big colossal thing. And when my dog was born, they had a litter of 3, and 1 died. 2 died. So she was the only one. So we know, you know, as a breeder, and what I've learned from your show and talking to Lee, and the information that I've learned these last 10 years, you know that is not healthy. If a bitch is giving, you know, if a larger dog like that typically has 7 to 10 litters, you know, 7 to 10 puppies per litter, why does she have only 3? And why did 2 die? And why was she only 1? So if that was me today, I wouldn't have bought that puppy, because something's wrong. Right. Something's wrong with the mother. Something's happening there. I don't want to put myself in that situation. There's no emotional connection yet. Right. It's a picture. You know what I mean? Right. So but when I saw Brad, and I'm like, and I really started, like, watching his videos and investigating, and I have like 3 or 4 dogo books, and I knew about the Martinez family, because I when I get interested in a breed, I do my homework. I start getting books. It takes time. I digest the history. So when I saw him and noticed that he was connected with the Martinez family, and what his dogs were about, I was like, man, it just sparked something inside of me. You know, I was like, there's actually people out there still breeding, you know, healthy dogos, because you don't see that anymore. Everything is like big. Big is not functional, you know. Big is not performance. So they're breeding like 130, 140 pound dogos. It's not what a dogo was. Dogo was, you know, a dog meant to hunt besides horses, to go 20, 30 miles. So when I started to hear him talk, and his logo, because I love Jesus Christ, you know, it had the cross in it, had the picture of the dogo. And now I don't know what the chains mean, but in my mind, it's like it links us together. You know what I mean? You're just as strong as the next link. Right. You know? I don't know what his mindset was, but I was like, all right, this is cool. Guy's a pastor. I love the way he talks. And you could tell right away, even without talking to him, a professional is going to recognize another professional. Oh, yeah. Know? Right. So right away, I just gravitated to his program, you know, and I talked to him a couple times, I talked to his guy Jerry behind the scenes that does like a lot of his social media, because if Brad's anything like me to the trade, I'm not a social media guy. I'm a tradesman. You know what I mean? Brad's a hunter.
Right,
He's a hunter.
right.
You know?
Isn't that funny? Like Brad, he wasn't really a social media guy. I'm not a social media guy.
Yeah.
And we all know social media.
I know. And I'm very grateful to your show because I ended up getting this. I ended up getting one of his hats.
Oh, cool.
As soon as I saw his show, I was like, I hunted a boar back in 2008. I took a Russian boar. I used to hunt a lot, and I still do archery, whitetail, but and then I'll show you. I ended up.
Oh, there you go.
One of his hats.
Yeah.
And popping it up there.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
So I was like, man. I was like, he really sparked the interest in me. You know what I mean? So who knows? Maybe I'll have a dogo someday. But So I decided to buy some of his merchandise, because in a world today that is being purchased by private equity companies, everything is being acquisition, especially in my industry. Small people have to help small people. That's the only way we're stronger together, And I know sometimes, like now I think, but that's where like the kindness comes in and the looking out, I don't look for anything in return, to be honest, I try to walk a good life because I want to make it to heaven. I do.
Likewise, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm not perfect by no means. I have my faults, and sometimes I have that Italian temper, but if I could help him in some way, it's just fruitful and rewarding for me. So, and I love what the logo stands for. So that's why I invested in it. I think Brad's going to do amazing things. I think he has the right mindset. And man, I would love to see him on a show.
Right.
He's good people.
Yeah,
good people.
For sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Brad.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad.
And Jerry.
And Jerry. I need to talk to Jerry. So I'm expecting big things from Brad. He got the mind. He a dog, man.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm talking about
the wealth, right? So third generational hunter. Talk about husbandry. When I saw, like, you see dogs and you see pretty, but as soon as I saw his trailer, I love equipment. I understand what that stuff costs. As soon as I saw the configuration, the setup, and I saw his barn, I say, okay, like anything in life, there's levels. And I'll be the first one to say today, I know a lot less than I do than when I was 21. The more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, that's right.
But that guy is, he's like the way, genetics are to like Lee Robinson,
Right.
Brad is like the hunting, they're like anomalies,
Right. Yeah.
And while we're talking about anomalies, I have to send a message to Cali Catchers. I talked to you about Bernard.
Yeah, I messaged him too.
Bernard.
Yeah, come on.
I told you I was going to mention you, right? So I want to tell you real quick about Bernard, because he's another anomaly. So Bernard is old school. I think Bernard's like 56. So he's not a social media guy, but he has a really nice platform on Instagram. It's called Cali Catchers. He's out in California. But man, Bernard is like the king of like hybrid vigor. Heterosis, I think it's pronounced, right? So like this guy spends so much money, because 90% of stuff that you get your hands on is usually shit until you actually test it. So what he does is, and I've talked to him so many times, and he is like a very nice, genuine. He has so much that he contribute to the show. Like Mr. like Richard Garcia, he's a wealth of knowledge, another nice man, I just bought one of his books. But Bernard is a wealth of knowledge. Same thing, generational hunter. The terrain is very different, let's say, than Arkansas and California. That's like fucking desert, Yeah. So he finds like these anomalies where he has like certain mastiffs, and I mean, he'll have like all kinds of terriers, bull terriers, and Patterdales, and he has a beautiful warble by the name of Mufasa. I will love one of those progeny one day. But he finds these anomalies. Man, it's just amazing. I really wish he would jump on your show, because he's very easy to talk to. He is just so unique. He's like the 1%. So like when you're taking your Lee Robinsons, your Brian Austins, your Brad Sneeds, and then you take your Bernard Shockleys, I really wish he could come on the show. Now I've talked to him about it, so hopefully he watches this. And Bernard, at 1:24:37, I need you to watch this clip. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for real.
So reach out to Joe. I would love to see you on the show. But those are the people you want to surround yourself around. Good people. They're not going to BS you. And they're going to point you in the right direction.
Yep. Okay. I don't know if I had cut you off, if you were finished with the animal husbandry.
Yeah. No, I think we summed it up pretty good there.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. Well, let's get into diet.
Yeah.
I know you're a raw feeder. What does it look like for you? What are the benefits?
Yeah. So my wife and I, we really believe. So my wife actually studied. And if you ever heard of Hippocrates is an institute in Florida. So, fast forward to today, in my family, everything we try to purchase, everything's like organic, non-GMO, clean. She really understands the importance of eating clean because you are what you eat. Right. So why did I get into raw? The reason I got into raw was when we first got Arlo as a pet, I started buying like kibble because I didn't know any better. And we started buying like products like Origin, Animet. Animet is out in Sellersville. It's like a town near me where the Animet family ran sled dogs. Right. So it's like their own brand. And I thought I was doing a good thing. But once I got my dogo started to develop allergies, right? So I'm buying the best kibble. I was even making my dogo kefir, which is, kefir is like you buy like these grains, you kind of grow it, you know what I mean? It becomes kefir, they pronounce it. It's a very strong probiotic. But it still wasn't helping. It helped a little bit. And I was going to the vet. And of course, the vets, I'm not big on medicine. I don't like over vaccination. That's why I saw Dr. Judy Morgan.
Yeah, Judy Morgan. Yeah.
Yeah, she was amazing. I love that. I still have to finish half of it. Right. Yeah. Thank you, Judy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
But the vet wanted to like pump her up with like steroids and this. And I said, I'm not doing that. I don't even do it for my kids. And anytime my dogs got vaccinations, I spread them out. I was like, you give them one, I'll come back in 2 weeks and you give them, that's just the way I am, Right. So what I started doing research, and then I decided to start, how can I change it? So I started to feed her raw. At the time, though, I was going to Costco. I was going to my dad's pizzeria because my whole family's in a restaurant business. And literally, I would spend 12 to 15 hours a month pre-making all their dog food for Arlo and her. And I tell you what, within like a month's time, it all went away. The rashes behind her ear, the itchy ear between her paws, it went away. So I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I want the best for them, if they're healthy, that's the way I am. It's like, if my family's taken care of and they're content, if my dogs are taken care of, exercise fed, I'm content. So that's what I started to do. Now today, fast forward, I've been feeding raw for about 9 years.
Okay.
I buy it from, I talked to you about him before, from Stoney, from Athletic Canine.
What's the name of his company?
Athletic Canine.
Athletic Canine, yeah. Yeah. Stoney sent me some stuff, yeah. Yeah,
so it really, because I work around the clock, Joe, like you, right? We work around the clock. You don't have time to take a shit. And then I'm spending 12 to 15 hours a month making dog food. You know what I mean? It's a lot of time, Talk about animal husbandry. Like I want the best for them. So then, but like Stoney today, they come in like 2-pound packages. But I don't feed them like the same stuff all the time. So like sometimes we'll have duck, and I kind of just do it by memory. But if they have 2 days to feed a duck, then I'll give them lamb. Then I'll give them beef. Then I'll give them chicken. Now, because we eat very clean, organic, and I archery hunt, sometimes we'll have venison, but raw is so important. So if I take Arlo, for example, Arlo had an injury when he was 3.5 to 4. It was my mistake. I ended up buying like one of those adult scooters, not without a motor. It's kind of like a mountain bike, but it's a scooter, right? So I created this harness rig where my dogo was very fast. But what happened was I found myself in a situation on a trail where he was lagging behind. And long story short, he ended up having an injury, sustaining an injury that never healed. So you make mistakes. The more hands you put on dogs, the more you learn. you know. And but I think because he comes from the show line, and we're never at the vet, you know, maybe for a checkup.
Right.
But, you know, I think if it wasn't for raw, I think there'd be a lot more issues, you know, because you are what you eat, you know. Now, I will attest to like the poop. I don't clean up poop. Yeah, I got 3 acres fenced in, you know, because we live on a 5-acre property. But, you know, to be honest, in a couple of days, it turns like white a little bit and then it goes away. Yeah. So I hardly clean up any poop. The breath got better. Even the poop doesn't really smell. I mean, it's poop.
But it's not
like wet. But at the end of the day, we go back to like that $75,000 we were talking about. You're going to spend it somehow. Yeah. So you're either going to be able to spend it on food that you're giving your beloved pet, you know, your working dog or whatever it is, you know, and you're not going to be at the vet as much. Because if I eat zero fast food, zero. But if I eat Burger King all the time, you know what I mean? And like my vertigo, what kept my vertigo in check after all these years, and it'll come if I trigger it. If I eat fast food, the MSG and all that, it'll trigger it, right? If I don't eat clean, and I intermittent fasted for many years, that helped my vertigo. That healed my body. The intermittent fasting, it healed my back. That hurt for like 7-8 years, and it really helped tremendously, 99% with my vertigo. So animals are the same way. If you want them to be healthy, you want them to be athletic, feed them raw. You know, you always have to, you know, I always look at it this way, you know, or if you take Trump, for example, like, you know, regardless of politics, because I think politics, you know, the powers that be control both sides. Oh, yeah. It's just a game, right? Right. But if everybody's trying to crucify this man, or if every vet is against, you know, raw food, I understand what the powers that be, what they've created in the society, you know? Yeah. And I want to feed my animal the best. So would I rather spend at the vet, or would I rather spend it on food? I want to spend it on food. Right. A healthy animal. So I think raw is amazing from personal experience. I think it's great. Right. Really. Right. Yeah. I'm like you with that. If there's a bunch of people telling me or try to censor something, it makes me wonder, like, well, if it's so dangerous, let me at least hear it out. Don't try to hide it from me. Don't try to silence it. If it's that bad, let me see for myself instead of you try to block everything. So I definitely feel you on that. It's true. Like, you know, a month ago I went to the vet. Arlo needed a checkup, right? They put him on the table, they check him. The nurse practitioner, then the vet, they're like, oh my God, he looks amazing. He looks so healthy. His teeth are great. There's no plaque or very little. He just looks great. His weight's on point. Amazing. I'm serious. They're like, what does he eat? Oh, he's on a raw diet. Oh, that's not healthy. Yeah. Hold on a second. I was like, Doc, you know, you just told me how good he looks for 10 years old, and now you're saying he's not healthy. You know what I mean? I said, listen, you're not changing my mind. He's been eating raw. It's, you know. Right. I've heard some vets say, well, it's not that we're against raw. It's they feel like you need a nutritionist or something, or learn how to do it right. But it's so much information on how to feed a dog, balanced dog. That's why I buy it from like Stoney Athletic Canine, because I took this got the essential vitamins in there. It's got amino acids. It's got, you know, the proper organ meats, you know, it's got the muscle meat in there. It's got the bone. It's got the vegetables. So it's just easy for me to just administer. Yeah. So let's get into some of the tools and hardware you need if you're going to have a dog. Oh, okay. I will say I've seen it time and time again. Personal experience, especially when I had my Dogo, because she was very dog aggressive. You know, not as much as my Sentinel, but she was pretty dog aggressive. Is that you got to have good equipment, because if you don't have a good equipment, it's a huge liability. You know, it's a liability on your animal. It's a liability depending on the type of breed that you have and the individuals that you have on another animal, on other people. So I've always believed in getting very good quality stuff, either from like like canine athletes. There's a guy in Cali. He's always made my leashes, always made my collars. His name is Punch James Arnold. He's on Instagram. But like, he'll make me stuff that's like 3-ply. I would, being a tradesman, I always understand having really good tools because you're just as good as your tools and your tools are just as good as you. I understand that very well, but that correlates to the dog world as well. So, having the proper crates, if you got a high intensity dog, don't put them in one of those wire crates. You don't want to come home to like a dead animal,
right?
Or a stuck animal, Yeah. If you have powerful breeds, make sure those collars can sustain that power, because if a tactical situation or incident arises, you have to be able to, handle the situation correctly. And there's nothing wrong. I've always had like a tactical mind. So I run a lot of scenarios through my head all the time. It's just the way my mind works. So like when situations were to arise, because, we've been in a couple dog attacks, walking my Amstaff and my Dogo, but all those things I've always thought, like I always carry like carabiners.
Right.
Like, every leash has a carabiner. Why? Because there was an incident one time where I had to take one of my dogs and hook it up to a fence post, either by hook and right away, that was an extra set of hands, right?
Right.
Or when I used to walk both my Amstaff and my Dogo, I had one of those workout vests with D-rings. Mm-hmm. I'll take the carabiners and hook them up. If I got to take a phone call or something happens, my hands are free.
That's right.
My dogs are still with me.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I could do other things. So
right.
Having the right gear is so important. It could save your animal's life, or save another dog. If you have very animal aggressive dogs, remember, people don't understand. Many, many times on a daily, if I'm walking my dogs, I have to tell people my dogs aren't friendly. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, if you have big, powerful breeds, you're going to look like you're a foal. Carry a break stick. Mm-hmm. When I have my Sentinel and my Dogo, not so much with my Amstaff, I have a break stick all the time. Mm-hmm. Always. Because you don't know when you have to use that tool.
Right.
Right. So you got to be prepared. And be careful too, like where you go. Like you go to places like PetSmart, which I never did dog parks ever. The dogs that I like are not made for dog parks, Mm-hmm. But be careful. Like those extendable leads. Yeah. People don't know how to use them. In a tactical situation, you lose a lot of your gross motor skills. Mm-hmm. How the fuck are you going to control the button?
Right.
You're not.
Right.
So I think having a proper gear, buy it from a good company, either like Canine Athletes. I just ordered a collar from Grit and Steel.
Oh yeah, them some good collars.
Oh my goodness, they really are.
Yeah, them some good bad boys.
Oh, you didn't even open it up yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I got several of them.
They're great
that I put on them. Yeah, man. They the real deal. They the real deal. I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't mention it. I wouldn't put my face by it or nothing. But these are very fine quality collars. Look at this. Big old buckles. Look at the buckles on them joints.
Yeah, and if you look at the hardware, it's very, very, very good quality hardware.
It is very,
a lot of the custom leashes, like I have this one, I'll show you. So, it's all heavy gear. This guy's name, like I said, I think he does it. It's called Arnold. Let me see. Mm-hmm. Arnold and Sons, right? I don't know if the C is backwards, right. But like I even had him do like one of those like extra loops close by because my
custom made there.
Oh, custom made, yeah. It's all double ply, know.
All right.
I'll send you some links. You know what I mean, to like his page and like Bernard and stuff like that. But like he always has made my collars since I had my Dogo. They last. They're kind of like the same quality as Grit and Steel. But he can make whatever you want because if I was doing different things, I might want like a 10-foot lead and maybe I just want a 6. You're not going to find that as a particular, like a pet store, like a PetSmart or anything like the Petco. You're not going to find stuff like this. So I wanted heavy duty where, I know what I have and I know it's not going to break at the time that I really needed to not break,
Yeah. And that stuff ain't breaking. He sent me several. Yeah. He sent me several of them. Yeah. All different kinds. So that stuff is pretty good stuff. Yeah, we got some really good guys out here. They might not be big name mainstream, just doing things that you guys might be interested in, and that's important. You know, small business runs it. When COVID happened, you found out who ran it, who employed most Americans,
Yeah.
small business. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
With that being said, let's get into the business side.
Oh, yeah.
Because you have a lot of business acumen that can be applied, because business is business.
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
Yeah. So, I think, and I've talked to a couple of breeders about this before, and I've had to learn all this stuff by the sweat of my brow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying I'm some businessman guru, but, I started my company in '07,
Yeah.
Thank by the grace of God, we're doing well. We keep moving forward, but I think you really have to know, there's a couple books that I'm going to send you that maybe you could post, but and I can only speak on the trade side, but a business is a business, so it doesn't matter. But there was a book that I read, and I forgot to bring it with me. Her name was Carol Fay, and I have it somewhere stored at home, and I'm going to show you the cover page. But it is not a big book. It puts everything in very basic layman's terms, But if you're deciding to be a breeder, and you have the passion for it, that's great. But that's a very, very small piece. You having the gift of being able to breed good animals is still a very small piece. If you need to look at longevity, you need to know what to properly charge for that product. Just because everybody's selling, cane Corso for $3,000 doesn't mean that yours are going to cost that much. You have to look at what your expenses are. What most people don't do after they factor in all their expenses is, what are you paying yourself? Because in a billable year, if you're working 40-hour weeks, right, and you're working 52 weeks a year, that's 1,960 hours. Billable, right? So that if you're spending 8-hour days, 7 days a week, what do you want to make?
That's right.
Forget about what the puppy costs. Just forget for a second. What do you want to make? Do you want to make $50,000 a year? Do you want to make 100? What do you need to make? Do you want to make 150? All right. But then you have to look at all your expenses, all your bills. That all has to go into the pot, and all the miscellaneous stuff. And then you got to put in stuff for growth. Yeah, you might only have 2 dogs, but now in 2026, now you're going to have 3 bitches and one male. Now you need more kennels. You need more. So you have to factor that in, and that's what a lot of people don't do. They just kind of go on a whim. They put some kennels in the back, of their property, but that all comes, with time and expenses. Joe, did I freeze?
We did, but we back. Internet.
Is that on your end or mine? I think mine's pretty good. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right, because your screen's frozen. So, what was I saying? So, we're talking about time. We're talking about knowing your expenses, knowing what you need to pay yourself, and what was the other one? Yeah, but you got to factor in things like vehicles. If you have a business, it's always very important, and maybe it's not so popular. And so we're talking about, in business, you have to pay yourself. Yeah. It took a while to learn that for me. You know what I mean? Because people don't realize that it's not beneficial if you're not making money, or at least covering your expenses.
Right.
So, I think it's always very important, if you're going to treat it like a business, you need an accountant, right? You need to be able to establish at a very minimum, at least like an LLC, because how are you going to write stuff off if you don't have an established business? So then, paying yourself, understand your expenses, vehicles, is it going to require for you to travel? So how much of your house or your homestead is this program taken up? Because if you're dedicating utilities to it, water, sewer, electric, communication, right? If you're dedicating all that stuff, you're able to write percentages off. Now, every state's going to be different, but you got to be able to write that stuff off. Most people might not even know that. So if you got a mortgage of $1,300 and you got utilities of $500, what happens if you could write 10% off?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Right. Right.
So now you're working your 9 to 5, you're paying yourself with the side breeder business, but then you're also talking to a CPA or talking to, a good accountant that's going to help. You need a good accountant. Good accountant costs you money, but that good accountant is going to save you a lot of money. Yeah. My accountants are expensive, very expensive, but it's all relative. You know what I mean? So once you really start to get your feet wet and you start to do this program and it starts to evolve and it starts to grow, you have to, and it's all building blocks, you have to be able to implement this stuff, because at the end of the day, if you have a good heart, that's great, but you can't help anybody if you don't have money. You can't help yourself and you can't help anybody else, and if you don't have the proper funding and money, everything's going to go to shit. Everything's going to suffer.
That's right.
The husbandry.
Right. Yep. Anthony, how many employees you got?
Oh, I think we're about 12.
So I run about 12 employees as well. They don't want to hear nothing about, well, your pay is going to be a little late.
Yeah.
You got to have money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's important, but it's everything, are you going to be, do you need computers? You gotta really, I always say, you got to put it on paper. Mm-hmm. If you're going to create a vision board, what's your vision? Put it on paper. You can manifest it if you're looking at it every day. What are your expenses? Put it on paper. There's very inexpensive programs. You're out in the kennels and you got boots, socks, underwear, clothing, toothpaste, whatever. Mm-hmm. I need this. You write it off. Mm-hmm. That's why businesses were created.
Right.
LLCs and corporations. Look at Trump. He said it before. The Clintons, lawyers, and people like that created all these loopholes not to pay taxes. Mm-hmm. Why don't they pay taxes? You got to do it correctly. You got to follow the laws. But that's why you have a good CPA.
Right.
You have to be able to go. The more money you have, you can invest. For me, it's better equipment, better technicians. Right. For a breeder, it's going to be better individuals, better genetics. It's all relative. Like, what do you want in life? Do you want to be here or do you want to be there? It takes time. It takes hard work, but you have to know your expenses. It's a business.
Right. You have to know your expenses. But you just said something that tie into expenses. Now, so I know some of you guys breed different type of dogs, but with me, I want to cut down on my expenses because I want to stay out the vet as much as possible. Yeah. So you won't catch me breeding Frenchies or bullies or some dogs that got health issues. They're just me. I need a strong, genetically healthy dog that helps me stay out the vet. That helps me with expenses. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? That's one thing I want to put.
That's going to help your program, because the better your product is, the happier your clients are going to be. Because for every good thing that you do, 3 people know about it. For every bad thing you do, 10 people know about it. That's like in any business, Mm-hmm. So the better product you create, the more clients are going to be happier, the more the word spreads, and it never becomes easier, but you start to get to a point where you're kind of floating, when you do it for so long, it's kind of like me with plumbing anymore. I used to write for a national magazine. I used to write boiler columns, but what is my core? My core is plumbing, but when you start to do something well, you start to get to a point in your career where you're starting to float. It almost gets easier. You've done it for so long. Mm-hmm. Those are the important days. That time period, that's the time where you need to fucking make your money.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes a bunch of sense. Yeah.
Because I've been in the industry for 24 years, and I've been grateful to one. The reason why I'm so type A with my work is on my mother's side. Mm-hmm. My drive and my tenacity and never give up comes from my father's side. Mm-hmm. But you start to get to a point in 24 years of doing this where there's really, on the plumbing side, residential, commercial, there's nothing I can just look at and say, this is what it is. This is what it is, Yeah. So, and I think too is one misconception with any trade, any industry, because breeding to me is a trade. I'm a tradesman. I look at everything as a trade, is that it's okay to help people, right? You know, for a long time, I was a knowledge whore. What do I mean by that? I had to be the best plumber, had to be the best HVAC tech, had to be the best hydronic specialist. I was going to school, you know, it's fine. I put that time in. But today, I want to help my community.
That's right.
I want to employ good people. In a world that is being acquisitioned, I just want to serve my community. I don't care. For a long time, I was working for very powerful billionaires and many millionaires. I don't care about that today. I just want to serve my community.
Right.
You know? So I've never seen a hearse pull a U-Haul. You're not taking it with you. So today, what's fruitful for me, which would correlate to breeders, is helping the younger generations. We all have a shelf life.
Yes, we do, brother.
So when I see the men and women that work for me, there's no reason why they need to suffer. I mean, there were times I'm in tears putting in a 16, 18-hour day. Joe, I don't know what I was fucking doing. You know, I was getting through. I knew not 80%, but I came into that 20% where I've never seen this before. You know, I never give up. But if you could teach our younger generation and make it easier for them, you know.
Talk to them, bro.
Yeah. Why do you want them to make a mistake? Right. Why do you want them to go through the pain and agony you did?
Right.
I mean, now, you know, sometimes, you know, people have that mindset, well, you know, I pull it out of the dirt. You pull it out of the dirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why? Help them. You know, it'll be fruitful, but you have to teach the right people. You're not teaching the masses this, you know.
Right.
But find those good individuals that are respectful, that they're going to appreciate your time. Teach them. It really becomes, that's where I am in my career. I love just uplifting people, and I love teaching my guys, you know. That's important.
It is, man. In business, I've learned a lot of things. Some you just said a lot of stuff that really like touched me today.
Resonates.
Yeah, man. Like
hopefully not touching you in the wrong places, Joe.
No, we don't do all that. How
you
doing? But you said so much that resonated. I remember just like just in business, your character, you're gonna take you a long way. So I have points where my company hadn't always been strong. I sell time and labor, basically. So, and I can go in and look at buildings, see how long it takes to maintenance, or if I don't, I can measure it and calculate how long it'll take. So I sell time, labor.
Yeah.
Well, it's been times where my company hadn't been the strongest. I hadn't had the strongest employees, especially during the COVID and right after COVID, when you couldn't hardly find nobody to work. But my character, being that my kids grew up in commercial buildings as we worked in them and things, and knowing the owners, and when with the times I were weak, they didn't get rid of me. They're like, just going through a phase. They know he gonna come back. And I always did, you know. And I hear a lot of talk, you know, about money. Being that you're in the service industry and doing it, I wouldn't even. I can only imagine the people you work for, such as I've been around millionaires since I was 24 years old. I've been working with them a long time. So when I hear guys talk about all this money, and not even like been in these people's houses or had a relationship to have known some of the richest families, literally the richest families in the world.
I believe you.
Yeah, for real. I mean, like
powerful people.
Do you know I'm up here with, you know where I live? It's the home of Walmart. It's the home of JB Hunt. It's the home of Tyson Chicken.
It's kind of like probably like what we call in Pennsylvania our main line. Our main line's an area from like Malvern Station to like near Philly, the nicer parts of Philly. But this strip, you know, very, very powerful people.
Like very powerful people where all this, you know, chase the celebrities come here to chase big companies. I see Snoop Dogg and drive through serving food at chicken spots because they want to be at Walmart. They want to get the attention of these big conglomerates and things like that. So we've been doing that for years, guys. And it was just something else you were saying about money and people rushing. I would just like to tell young people right now, if you don't hear it, skills pay the bills.
Yes.
Don't forget about working with your hands.
Yes.
And a lot of times it's a focus on money, but men don't really make a lot of money if you do the research. The most time men make the most money is between 30 and 60 years old.
Yeah, it's true.
20s need to be about development.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Learning.
Learning,
Yeah.
man.
Usually, like you spend a decade really learning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it takes how many 30,000 hours to perfect the craft.
That's right.
You know? So think about it. We talked about it earlier. There's 1,960 hours in 40-hour weeks in a year.
Right.
You do it for 5 years. It's 10,000 hours. You learn.
Right.
Then you have to do it for so long.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But then you get to a point where you're starting to float. You know, I can look at stuff. That's where you're floating.
That's when you
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, in combative sports, your body breaks down.
Right.
If you're a coach, it's different. You're seeing things, you know. In a trade, you know, big advocate of being healthy, being smart. You know, conserve your body. So the longer your body is healthy, the longer you can make money and provide for you and your family, your loved ones.
Sure
it correlates to your dogs. If you love dogs so much, you know, for me, I'm a very serious pet owner, you know, on average Joe. But, you know, the healthier I am, I know that in maybe the later years in life, if I'm eating clean, I'm making those right decisions, I can enjoy my dogs more, you know. So, you know, you got to be careful too, like what you allow in your life. You know, what are you doing? You know, because this world is designed to make you fail. You know, it's very Luciferian, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's alcohol or gambling or women, drugs, prostitution, this, you name it, the vices are there.
There. Yeah.
But put the blinders on, you know.
Got you. Yeah.
And that's why it's always important. I'll show me your 5 friends. I will show you your future. You know, surround yourself. You know, if you want to be a breeder, surround yourself around the Lamont Mortons, the Lee Robinsons, the Brian Austins, the Brad Sneeds of the world, the you know, the Shockleys. You know, surround yourself around these good people because this world is designed to make you fail. It's not designed for success.
Right.
You have to be the resistance. You know.
Right. Yeah. And another thing too, we talk about in dog breeding is environmentals. And environmentals can be dangerous for, excuse me, for humans as well. And
absolutely,
sometimes it's simple fixes. You know, us that grew up in the inner city, man, go ahead and move that 20 minutes outside in the country and live a quiet life. I'm telling you, you'll learn to appreciate it. You know what I'm saying?
It's true.
It's small little minute things you could do. The people you hang with, the mentality. Get off that dang on phone.
Break the generation.
A dangerous thing too. But besides that TV, you'll find yourself talking about a lot of people if you're on the phone too much with different type of men, and that's why I don't do a lot of phone. I talk to certain people. Random people come up. What do you think about this breeder? I don't know.
Yeah,
yeah.
Break the generational curse.
Yeah,
you know, and then you know, and live your life. You're entitled to be happy, but that doesn't come with hard work and merit, you know, and follow people with merit that actually have credentials. Right. Don't worry about all the bullshit, all the smoke and all the propaganda. What merits and credentials do you have? And surround yourself around those people, because if you surround yourself around better people, it's only going to make, that's the epigenetics, right?
Right. Yeah. And that's important too, because I know a lot of guys who are young in the game and they are forced breeding, and they're just like, their programs are like, boom. Yeah. And they really quiet, but it's who taught them.
Sure.
It's who behind them, you know what I'm saying? That makes them great. So, yeah, man, I want to go into this one, acknowledgments and mentorship.
Yeah. And that's like, you know, like I said, it goes back to surround yourself around good people, you know. You know, I wish in a breeding world there was actually, I don't want to say like, you know, to be a plumber in my state, you have to go to school. You got to do an apprenticeship program, you know. But I wish there was some kind of, you know, level of training, education. And maybe breeders will be upset if I said that, but you know, I think, you know, having the right information is very important. I wish there were programs out there, or at least not that everybody could just become a breeder.
Right.
Or if you're being mentored, at the very least, if you're being mentored by a very credible breeder, that's good enough.
Yeah.
You can see the accolades, you can see the accomplishments, I think it's super important.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn the right way,
Right.
Passion is your drive. It's like your
Right.
pre-drive. It's driving you, you know what I
That's
mean?
right. Yeah.
But you still need the education behind it.
Right. And maybe one day too, I want to do an episode or go a little deeper into business for us, like SEO optimization, websites, apparel. We can go into all kind of things like that and show you how to,
I will say this: Google is like Google's LSEs, local search ads, organic. It is a monster. It changes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We have like an in-house marketing team. My wife is very good with it, and then we have other people. But Joe, that's if you want to grow like a business, right? But you gotta figure, just a good rule of thumb is that you're spending, if you want to maintain what you're doing as far as advertising, you're spending 5 to 6% just to barely maintain. If you're trying to grow, you're spending anywhere from 8% to like 11%.
Yeah.
So what does that correlate to? Well, that correlates to going back to your expenses, knowing what you need to charge.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, you got to figure, if you want to make $100,000 a year and you got $100,000 in expenses, you're not going to divide your 1960 divided by 200,000. You're going to have to put that 10% because you want to grow, right?
Right.
That's another $220,000.
Right.
That'd be a loss if in fact. So it is become such a machine, because 20, 30 years ago, if you were a very good plumber or a good tradesman, or a good breeder, you're going to ask so-and-so. It's like, oh yeah, I got it from this person. This is the in-town plumber. Once the private equity companies came in and they caught wind of this, the last 10 years, the phone's always ringing. They really just started saturating the market, and it's a monopoly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a monopoly with these titans that are coming in. It's just big money, big pharma, all that crap. Yeah. That's why it's important to have integrity. And as a community, regardless of your differences, one thing we should be able to agree upon is that we all us little people want us to see each other succeed. Forget about the animosity. Forget about like the evil, because again, we're all energy. It's a vibrational thing. The higher vibration, the more you want to see somebody succeed, the more that's going to come back to you.
Right.
And I think as a community, when you start to look at like your PETAs, your BSLs, your ASPCAs, like all these powerful organizations, they're trying to destroy breeding. They're trying to destroy, they're saying it's unethical. It's like I said, it's always the opposite. Right. It's like you take these dirty politicians, they're saying one thing, they're doing it themselves, but it's the opposite. The rules should apply to everybody.
Yeah, it should. And I noticed this, that they trying to destroy breeding with certain people. Now you got government funded, USDA approved puppy mills that they don't really, they actually like softening them against that. Well, they go out there and inspect every month. And so it's all tying in together, it seems like.
Government, I mean? If you break down the word government, govern means control. Govern. Ment means mind. It's mind control. It's just what it is, right? So, we have to stay vigilant. We have to kind of open up our eyes a little bit. What really changed me was about 7-8 years ago. I met this one guy on a job. I was working for a very good carpenter. He ended up having a guy that took his place. He couldn't make it there. Anyway, at that point, all I knew was hard work, plumbing, family. I knew nothing about politics. I knew nothing about worldly stuff. I didn't know anything about this stuff, like elites and all this other, Luciferian stuff. I didn't know anything about it. He shared a file with me. He's like, you know what? I'm going to share a file. I never met this guy again. I just saw him. I met him for 2 hours on a job. And let me tell you, I got so depressed because I never knew how evil the world was. Everything from human trafficking to adrenochrome use to all the pedophilia to all the elites to all these systems in place. So I was, because I wake up at 4.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up at 4 because I have responsibilities in the morning before I get to the office, taking care of the dogs, exercise, stuff like that. I was waking up at 3:30. I was finishing reading these files at 5, and then I go to work. Man, Joe, for 9 months I got so depressed because I saw stuff on this folder that was like, is this really the world?
Mm-hmm.
But today, information, I always tell people, information should be received like building blocks. Mm-hmm. So let's just say you're a mason, right? Mm-hmm. But you never laid a brick before. If I dump all this information on you, it's kind of like I unload a tractor trailer full of pallets of bricks, and I'm saying, I need you to put this building together. Mm-hmm. You're going to walk off. You say, this guy's crazy.
Right.
But if I teach you how to lay one brick at a time, and then we do like a little shack, a little garage, and then we do like a little row house, and then we do a couple twins, and then we do a mansion, and then we do a shopping center, mm-hmm. right? Over the years, your knowledge grows, you become more comfortable, you're more receptive, mm-hmm. Information is received that way. Does that make sense?
Makes a bunch of sense. It makes a bunch of sense in the thinking. Even that's why I'm a fan of long form content. You know what I mean? Because it's the drip.
Yeah.
Steady learning. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Different things. Yeah. So it makes a bunch of sense. Yeah. So one thing I want to go back and comment on is marketing. I know a lot of people have different opinions on it, but when you do your marketing, when you learn your marketing, you guys please study SEO. If you need help, email me or Anthony or something like that, because SEO is kind of like a snake oil. You can't see it, but you need to. Yeah, but you
got to be very careful. You got to be very careful. So we've been burned so many times. I've spent so many tens of thousands of dollars.
Right.
And I would say one of the best things that we ever did was, because it's his own industry. Like I said, I'm a plumber. Mm-hmm. So I know in business, in breeding and anything, you have to wear many hats.
Yeah.
Right. That's why you're not taking your dogs if they get sick to the bed all the time. You'll have no money. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. You got to learn a little bit, but you also have to stay in your lane and know, when you can financially hire a professional, but it is a snake oil salesman, So, sometimes like finding like maybe like an individual who's just getting out of college, that is learning that, that might be the industry they're going in. And then you could kind of hire them.
You can,
And you break it down by budget. Break it down by budget.
Right. And I'm able to, being that I had to battle salesmen in my field, I had to, what I call go up in the sky. I had to use social media. I had to use SEO website, and I use a lot of labor from overseas. You study cultures and you find out that Filipino women speak perfect English. And I could do, at COVID, I would do interviews through Skype. And they thinking right here in the U.S., she's asked all the filter questions before they even get to me. Because I don't have time for that. Yeah. Ask her all this filter questions. She's over in the Philippines.
Yeah.
And if they pass the test, send them to me. Yeah. But I had to save time. You know what I mean? We don't got a lot of time. Me and you guys, like me and you.
No.
So, anything you can do to save time. And as far as marketing, I never believe in turning it all the way off. I'll turn it down.
Yeah.
I'll turn it.
That also affects your algorithms, and that could affect algorithms, by even turning it down. But you just you have to know your industry, because every industry is very, very different. You also have to know your market. Like we live near Philadelphia; it's very saturated. There's a lot of private equity companies here, all over the place. So it's not easy being in business. No, it is grueling, but it can be very fruitful.
Yeah. Get past year 5.
That's right.
Yeah, get past year 5, guys. Yeah, that's when it started to open up a little better, because it's going to be a roller coaster ride. But Might have to borrow a little money, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But get through it. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Anthony, let's get to the shout outs, brother.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, thank you. So I wanted to give a shout out to Lee Robinson. Like I said, he's become like a dear friend. And
good dude.
Yeah, just a wealth of knowledge, an anomaly when it comes to like genetics, I learned a lot when you guys did that show together. And, I talked to Lee like probably once or twice a week. We're always like messaging each other. So big shout out to him. He's a good human being. None of us are perfect, but he's done a lot of stuff for me. So I wanted to say thank you,
Likewise.
Brian Alston is another individual from Steadfast. He breeds really true to temperament, amazing Staffordshire Bull Terriers. We love our little puppy. Even though I've only put hands on, let's say, 5 animals, I know what I have. She's awesome. His dogs are everything that he describes. He is a gentleman. He'll answer the phone, answer the call. That's what you want. You want people that are there for you. So, Brian, thank you. We love having your puppy. His dog brought so much joy in my family. So thank you. Cali Catchers, Bernard Shockley. Bernard, we have to get you on the show.
Come on, Bernard. Come on here, brother.
You got to call Joe. I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you Monday or Tuesday. We got the Eagles playing today.
Everybody go to his Instagram. Say go to NWA show.
Yes, yeah. Go to Cali. It's Cali Catchers.
Instagram.com.
So just call Joe from NWA. Call Joe from NWA.
Yeah.
And then also Joe. Like we talked about Brad Sneed. I think Brad's going to do amazing things. But
he will.
But last but not least, I wanted to thank you and Doug because
thanks.
Everything that you're doing for the dog community. So I just want to say I appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you do.
He's talking about Doug Coppage, the co-producer.
Yeah.
At the DMV. Yeah.
Doug does a great job.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, he does. Yeah. Doug is a thinking man, and Doug is a calm man, and I got to have them type dudes around me.
That's right.
You'll see the other side of Joe.
The yin and the yang. You know what I mean?
You gotta have it. Yeah, you got to have dudes that can think around you. You know what I'm saying? It ain't about me sticking my chest out, making me like, oh, this is my podcast. No, this is for everybody, man.
And that's why I gravitate to this show. I think it's wonderful. I share everything that I can. But for me, speaking on this show, it's a huge honor. It's a pleasure. I really enjoyed myself just talking to you.
Yeah, and thank you because a lot of people don't know that you've done a lot of stuff to help me. You'll see things. You're a tactical man. You're a strategy type guy, and everything you said, I have taken in. And I said, oh, yeah. So it's important for men to have other men or somebody to advise them when they're because we can't see everything.
No.
And we can't take it as, we're trying to tell me what to do. No, I'm trying to help you, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you have to be careful how you deliver the message.
That's right. Yeah.
And like I always say, being kind and being helpful, it doesn't mean that you're weak.
That's right.
If anything, I fear the men that are quiet. I fear the men that don't talk much.
That's right.
Because most of these men could kill you in a second. They're usually the kindest men. Be
honest, for real.
You know what I mean?
But I needed that. I've had so many people reach out because people can read people. Yeah. And they can read things on the show. Joe, change this. Is too much this. Is too much that. And it just sharpens you. Yeah. But the show gets better and better because we learn. And the show is all about learning. And, so, yeah. I hope, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I hope whatever I contributed, hopefully it could help, maybe some potential, client that's looking for a dog. Maybe like some of these tips could help them. If I would have known some of the stuff that helped me, and it's just stuff that I've learned, some of the info over the years. Right. Cool. Well, brother, we appreciate you coming. We wish you all a success in business, family. You too. And thank you for being a guy that's willing to share. You know what I'm saying? I love you, brother. I love you. Yeah, I love you too, bro. I appreciate everything. Yes, God bless you. You guys have a great day. Okay. All
Thank
right.
you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Set it up. All right.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
And that wraps up another episode of NWA Connie Corsos. Thank you for being a part of our Connie Corso community. Remember, you can stay connected with us beyond the podcast. Find us on all major media platforms by searching for NWA Connie Corsos. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Just hit that follow button to join the conversation and get the latest updates. If you have a burning question or want to apply to be a guest on our show, we'd love to hear from you. Simply shoot us an email at nwaconniecorsos@gmail.com. And if you're a business interested in becoming a sponsor, reach out to us at the same email address. For more resources, exclusive content, and links to all our social media profiles, visit our website at nwaconniecorsos.com. It's your go-to destination for everything dogs. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we can't wait to bring you more exciting episodes where we explore the fascinating world of dogs.